Hey, how's it going? This is McCoy Buck. In this video, I'm going to show you how to animate using the new Vitruvian Bones feature. I'll also go over the new animation channels that come with this feature to get you animating with Vitruvian Bones in no time. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I try to upload a tutorial once a week, but I only get to work on Moho in my spare time. So if you'd like to support the channel, consider checking out my website on the bottom right side of the screen, store.mccoybuck.com. I have courses, books, and memberships that cover everything I know about Moho and animation. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below on what you'd like to see next. Before we begin, I'm already assuming that you know how to use the animation tools in Moho, so I won't be going over exactly how each tool from Moho 13.5 works. I teach that in my How to Animate series. So if you need to pause the video and come back, that's totally fine. For everyone else, let's go ahead and get started. So right now I have my animation set up where he jumps into the air and lands. But this is using the old rigging options from Moho 12. I didn't have the ability to create foreshortening on his arms and legs without a lot of work and use of smart actions. But with the new Vitruvian Bones, I can now draw any arm or leg position and add it into the animation, even after animation has been created. We are quickly going to add the Vitruvian Bones we created from the previous tutorial on how to use Vitruvian Bones. So if you want to go more in depth into how they work and pitfalls to avoid, be sure to check out the playlist for Vitruvian Bones in the description. So I already have my V-Bones created, rigged, and the layers drawn, so I'm going to bring those back. Then just like the previous video, I'm going to add the already rigged arms to a V-Bone group by selecting the parents of the two front arms, going to the Vitruvian Bones icon, and selecting Group. I'm going to leave my groups unnamed, as I only have a few Vitruvian Bones, so it won't get too confusing. Then I'll go ahead and I'll do the same for the other arm and legs. Now that I added the Vitruvian Bones to this character, you can see in the timeline that I have a new animation channel, represented by the Vitruvian Man icon. If I hover my mouse over the channel, you can see the channel is called Vitruvian Bones Consolidated. This channel, the white channel, represents the global keyframes for Vitruvian Bones that have been animated. As near as I can tell, if the parent bone of the V-Bone group has animation, a keyframe will be created. To see which Vitruvian Bone groups have been created, use the Select Bones tool and select a parent bone of a Vitruvian group. So I'll select the front arm parent. And as you can see, the red animation channel now appears, showing me all the animation keys for the selected Vitruvian Bones Consolidated animation channel. But if I select the child of the parent, no animation keys show up for the selected Vitruvian Bone Consolidated animation channel. The benefit of having this channel is so that I can see all the animation created when I have one Vitruvian bone hidden and the other is visible. I'll go into it a little bit more once we start animating, but think of each Vitruvian bone set as its own timeline, that when switched from one arm to another, the timeline is hidden and the other timeline is shown. So if I go to the highest part in the jump, but I want to change his arm from the default position to the new position, I'm going to select the parent that has the Vitruvian Bone icon on the bone and use the keyboard shortcut Alt-C. Now you can see that a new animation channel has appeared in both my white global animation channel and my red selected animation channel. This new animation channel is the Vitruvian Bones channel. This lets me know when I am switching between Vitruvian Bones. Now I'm going to freeze my pose to create extra keyframes for the scale, rotation, and translation for this arm. Now watch what happens to the timeline when I move my timeline indicator a frame before that switch. Notice the keyframes change? That's because the Vitruvian bone that I currently have selected is hidden. Its timeline will also remain hidden until the Vitruvian bone is visible on screen. Now I'm going to select the rest of my Vitruvian bone groups and switch them at this frame. Now if I play out the animation, his legs and arms will be up for the rest of the animation until I switch those Vitruvian bones back to the existing positions. So I'm going to go ahead and make that switch as he's landing back on his feet. Now I'll play the animation back. I don't like the way the arms look, so I'm going to pull the keyframes back on the two Vitruvian bones so the arms change after the legs. And as you can see, I now have a global keyframe on the Vitruvian Bones channel that lets me know that I have keyframes for the legs and the arm changes. And because I know what these keyframe changes were, I can adjust the timing by simply dragging those global keyframes wherever needed. So now we're almost done, but we need the new positions to flow better into one another. Right now, the arms and the legs are snapping. And that's because the spacing between these two positions are too far from one another, and we don't have enough time to get from one pose to the next. So I'll adjust the positions or breakdowns between the main actions. To help me better see what position I am moving to and from, I'm going to turn on my onion skins. Onion skins also let me see where the new Vitruvian bone position will be, even though the switch has not yet been made. Now, this isn't a method I would use 100% of the time, because when the switch happens and you're trying to fix the in-betweens, when one arm moves to the other, you can't move bones that are now hidden. So another option is to go to the Bones menu and select Disable Vitruvian Bones. This will now show all of my poses for the arms, so I can easily see where to fix in-betweens and have all keyframes visible at once on my timeline. Now I'm going to go to the part where he lands and the arms switch. I want to create a smoother transition between these two arm positions. Now I'm going to adjust the bones to better transition from one pose to the next as he's jumping. Then as he's landing, I'll fix the in-betweens for his legs. Something to note is I'm working on twos, which helps me save time when it comes to fixing or adjusting in-betweens, because each pose is being held for 2 frames. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're animating on ones, you might have a lot more to adjust than I do. Using onion skins and disabling your Vitruvian bones are going to be key to making your in-between smoother, and if need be, have access to adjust all the keyframes. Disabling Vitruvian bones is also helpful when it comes to making changes on the overall design or adding smart bones. Just remember to keep in mind your animation keys you've already laid when making changes to these layers. Then, once you're all done making adjustments, go back to the Bones menu and select Enable all Vitruvian bones. There's also an option to disable or enable single Vitruvian bone groups. Simply select the parent Vitruvian bone, click on the Vitruvian bone icon, check on or off Enabled. This will isolate what Vitruvian bones to hide or enable, depending on what needs to be seen and how complex of a rig you have. And that's it. Vitruvian bones can be a little tricky initially to get the hang of when it comes to animation, but with practice, you're going to be turning out better rigs and animations in no time. As always, if you have any questions or need me to go more in depth on something I talked about in the tutorial, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.